Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 32 of Build Your Stash and Craft. This week we are going to make paper tassels, we are going to make embossing mats, and we are going to make bead caps for our paper tassels. So the first thing that we need is an embossing mat so that we can make those bead caps, and we can also use it to make our flowers and that type of thing. I had you pick up one of these kind of spongy placemats, and so what we are going to do, I measured this and it measures 12 by 18, so the squares are going to want, I marked it out so that we've got 6 by 6, and no matter what size your mat is, just cut it in half and in thirds, 1 2 3 this way, the long way, and in half the short way. And then all we're going to do is we're going to cut them in half, and we are going to glue them together, and we are going to glue together 2 and 3, and then we'll have just 1, because sometimes when you're embossing you just need a little bit of that sponginess to it, and sometimes when you're embossing you need even more. So now this little X right here, this is the sticker that came off of the mat. This is the mat that I got, and I got it at the Dollar Tree. It's the Home Collections, and this is where this sticker was. So it's not really sticky, but maybe it's a little bit tacky. So I want to just make sure that I put this inside my 2 or my 3 so that it's not the spot that I'm embossing on. That's why that X is there. So, and like I said, it doesn't necessarily feel sticky, but I'm just afraid when I put a piece of paper on that and try and emboss it, I might not think it feels sticky, but it might be sticky. So, so like I was saying, there are times when you need deeper embossing and times when you need less embossing. So we'll actually wind up with 3 embossing mats, one very thin one, a medium one, and a thicker one. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to make sure that I have the shiny side on one side of the embossing mat and the little tiny bit of a textured side on the other. So because the textured side kind of grabs so that things don't move, and the shiny side lets things kind of slide around, and sometimes you need one or the other. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my 2 middle ones, kind of see how they, and if they don't, if they're not exact and you want them to be perfect, you can always trim them up after you glue them together. So this is, we're going to have the shiny side on one side and we're going to have this on the other side, and I'm going to use my super glue, which I have to grab it, and I'm also going to just take off the side that I'm going to be gluing that's shiny. I'm going to use the sandpaper and take just a little bit of that shine off, just so that it has a little bit of grip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to sand the ones that need to be sanded. I want to make sure this is the one that's going to be glued together like this. So I'm going to make sure I don't sand this one, because that's going to be my top and that's the smooth side that I want. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to sand this one because this will be my 2, and then I'll get the others figured out as far as how they're going to be put together, and sand the couple that go with the 3, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I've decided how I'm going to use them. This is going to be my single one, so we'll just have a little bit of cush with this one. And I've already got my 2 sanded and peeled, and I put the glue on them, but then you have to let it sit for 10 minutes before you put the 2 sides together. So those are sitting, so I thought that I would show you. This is going to be my set of 3, and this I decided would be my top. This is going to be my middle, and this is going to be my bottom. Now the bottom I've already sanded, and the one thing that I did find out when I was sanding was that this top piece right here, I'm going to set that aside so I don't mess it up. This top piece, when you go to sand it, my box is just so giving in, I'm going to have to get a new one. Put this over here where you can see it. But as I started sanding it, I started sanding on the edges, and then what happens is it started to peel up. It's like, oh, there's a plastic coating on the top. So what I did was I just went through and just peeled that plastic coating. And sometimes it came off in pieces and sometimes it came off really well together. So, but this is going to be on the inside, so I definitely don't want it. I don't want that plastic coating. Now, this one this is going to be my top, so I'm leaving the plastic coating on there. The one thing we may find, especially with this 3, maybe even with the 2 thicknesses, is that as we're embossing on these, this may start to loosen up and we may have to just peel it off anyways. It will still work just as well. It just won't look as pretty. So then once I peeled that off, I just took my sanding paper and I just sanded the whole thing. And again, I just have my sanding paper with a toilet paper roll with some paper stuffed inside there, just so that this would be really sturdy and it's easier to hang on to the sandpaper that way by just rolling it around the toilet paper. And then just go around like this, making sure that when you set these up that you have one with the shiny part and one with the rough part. Now this, because we peeled off that plastic, it doesn't get real rough, so this just kind of gives it a little bit more grip, but I didn't do it like super long or anything. And then before you start to put your glue on, make sure that you get rid of all of these. This is kind of like the sticky stuff that was gluing this to the plastic on top. Make sure you get those out of your way, because otherwise they get in your glue. Alright, now I did have these lined up so that they would fit together like that. I've got my good piece on the bottom, and then there's number 2. So these 2 will have to be glued together. Just like that, and then the third one on top. So I just used my adhesive from the Dollar Tree. It's the Fix-It-All adhesive. And on this one they say when you put your 2 pieces together to let them sit. Now the one thing is you have to put glue on both sides. And what you're going to want to do is, after you put the glue on, either use an old credit card, an old debit card, or gift card or something, or piece of hard cardboard, and just spread it around. You don't want to leave these lines in here because that may make a really hard spot. I'm going to put a really junky piece of paper up here. Yeah, you may wind up with a really hard spot there, and when you go to emboss, that will make a problem with your embossing. So I just kind of grab it and pull it out to the edges like this and spread it around. I'm not as worried about the middle. We really just want them to stick together, and if we didn't want to glue them together, we wouldn't actually even have to do that. Okay, I'm going to set this aside because it needs to sit for 10 minutes. You know, you could just take 3 pieces of this and just set it on top of each other when you're embossing. So I just wanted to do this so that I'd have them just to grab and go kind of type thing. Oh, and be careful too. Hopefully I didn't get... when you're doing the glue, you don't want to get glue on the bottom surface. This is my bottom surface. So you don't want to get glue on there and have that be yucky when you're trying, because once this dries, you're not going to get it off, and then you're going to have to stay away from that spot when you're trying to emboss. So now we have those, and they're sitting aside for 10 minutes. And I have glue all over my hands. Now I'm going to take these 2, and this is my double, this is my 2s. I'm going to flip this over and just shut it like this, because I don't want to get glue. This is the back of my double, so I don't want to get glue on there. So I'm just going to take this here and then take my other one, because they've been sitting now for 10 minutes. And I'm going to line them up as best as I can, because I think once they touch, you're not going to probably get them apart. And again, if you don't get them lined up perfectly, you can always trim them down afterwards. Push them together really well, and then, you know the drill, stick them underneath of a encyclopedia for a little while. So now we have 2 thicknesses. So this one is 1 thickness, this one is 2, and then we're going to have another one that's 3. But like I said, get this pressed really well together. and then put it under something heavy to sit for a while for it to dry. I will be right back in just a minute. Okay, I'm back. Now we're going to make some tassels, and I just wanted to show you that on my card that I used for that glue, because it's a heavy glue and won't necessarily come off, I just marked my card because I only have a couple of these, and so that one's kind of messed up now, and I want to just make sure that I use that one all the time for my glue. Now, to make our tassels, you have to have a strip of paper, and so I thought that we could do one where we just take this is our dendritic printing from last week and our ripping tool from the week before, but I thought we could just go ahead and rip the bottom of our tassel. I haven't tried this one yet. The other techniques I've got here I've tried, but I just got to thinking about this, and so I thought, what the heck, we'll try it. But just putting a little bit of water along the edge of my ripping tool so that it rips easier. There we go. Now we've got a nice little ripped edge. Now the way that I cut my tassels, because I don't like the straight lines, and so I just cut little wavy lines in mine, just kind of back and forth, and I'm sure probably somebody else has done that too. But I just start out, if I can find my scissors, I just start out by doing a wavy line right from the start, and then just kind of, you're going to need to leave about a ½ inch at the top. If you want to draw a line across there, you can do that. But then I just go back and forth, and now I don't copy what I did the last time. I just go back and forth and back and forth. If you've got those little kid scissors, they have the different shapes. Those work good. I have done some that way, but you don't have to have those to get a cute little just a little added dimension. And what I do is, okay, now on this one I rounded this way, so on this one I'm going to round this way, so at the bottom it looks like that. Now it kind of points out like this, so this one I'm going to go this way. I just go back and forth, and now this one has a little bit of a kind of like a bell at the bottom. So one's kind of rounded and one's kind of pointy. And see, now this one's rounded in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the other side rounded in. Now this one's pointed out just a little bit, so I'm going to make the other side pointed out just a little bit. And that's just kind of the way that I do it, and sometimes I forget which way am I supposed to be going. So it really doesn't make any difference. And then you just do this all the way along. Now I've got a couple already done, so I'm just going to go ahead and start with one of those, but it's just that easy all the way till you get to the end. Now this one here, if I lay this out flat, you can see right here there's a gap. I cut one of these little strips off when I was cutting. No big deal, it's not going to hurt anything. Now on the first end I cut it kind of wavy, the other end I don't bother, I just leave it straight. And just like any other tassel, all you're going to do is wrap it around something. I just use one of my skewers and a little bit of, this is just sticky glue, which is the Dollar Tree's version of tacky glue. Whoops. And I just kind of put a little bit on there, not very much at all. And I didn't put any right here where I'm going to be rolling it, because I definitely don't want it to stick to my skewer. And then just roll it, keeping this end lined up as best as you can, the straight end. And just keep on rolling. You can always adjust it at the end, so if it does get off a little bit, it's not a big deal. If your tassels get a little entwined with each other, not a big deal. And how tight you get it, I'm kind of pulling forward on the paper and backward on the skewer. That kind of will keep it tighter, but a lot of times I just forget to do that and it winds up being kind of loose. It really doesn't matter, it's no big deal. The only difference that's going to make is how wide your top is. If it's loose, your top's going to be wider, and if it's tight, your top is going to be skinnier. So it's no big deal. And then at the end, you do want to make sure that you get enough to get a good hold on that. And that's it. So now you've got that, and you probably cannot see, but it's kind of like dented down in the middle. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it by putting my hands kind of like in the middle of the tassel. I'm just going to slide my fingers down the skewer, and I'm going to push the whole thing down to the other end. And it's not hardly wanting to move. And it may be that I got a little bit of glue on my skewer, or my skewer's getting bigger. Normally I don't start in the middle. I normally start closer to this end, but not all the way at the end. I'm going to make sure that that's kind of tacked there. And now I'm just going to push it to the end, and then I'm going to put it on the table and just move these aside. And then I'm just going to push down in the middle. That's going to push that middle part that kind of worked its way up. It's going to push it back closer to the top. But it really doesn't matter. And then what I like to do is sometimes when you have it this way, you can see that there's a big space right there because of the way that it got wrapped. While I have it this way, if I've got a big gap there, this one actually is really pretty good. Sometimes there's gaps all the way, all over the place. I just take my paper carefully and just move it around a little bit. All that happened is when you were winding it, your layers kind of wound up on top of each other. And so just move them back and forth until it kind of doesn't look like there's any gaps there. Now our tassel's not going to stay this flat. Kind of cool though. But this does, so when you flatten it back out again, those places that would kind of have a gap, you've already got that taken care of, and it's easiest to do it from the inside to move them around than from the outside. And there we go. Now we'll just take our tassel and kind of fluff it back down a little bit, and you can adjust that by pulling the insides down. No matter what, when you make paper tassels, you have to adjust them to make them look pretty. But, you got to give them just a little of adjustment here and there. But there's the tassel, and we're going to put a string down through the middle. I am going to take this off of my skewer, and to do that, I'm going to again go in here, hold the middle down, and pull my skewer out. So, and then I'm going to leave it like this right now because there's my hole for us to put, see, there's the hole, for us to put the wire through, or the string, or whatever we're going to put through it. So I'm just going to leave it like that, and I'm going to let it sit aside and let this top part get dry. So, alrighty, I'm going to cut this one and make it exactly the way that I made this one, and I will be back to show you how to make the bead caps to put on top of them. Okay, I am back with my embossing pads. So I have my 1 thickness and my 2 thickness and my 3 thickness. So now we can use those to make our bead caps. And also on my 1 thickness, I drew a line just the width of my ruler. And this is where I will use to poke into my pad when I want to poke into something or when I want to poke through something. Because that gives you the cush for your poker to go into. But I didn't want holes like all over my mat, so that reminds me that's the only place I poke. So, and then all you're going to do to make your bead caps is just cut a square, and this is just the cardstock that we bought for this series. And then to cut a circle freehand, just start in the middle of your square and then look to the middle of each side as you go. So, and that'll give you a pretty good. Just keep rounding and look at where you're going. This will give you a pretty good circle. If you want a perfect circle, just draw around the cap of something. And then you can just, that's not bad. If I wanted to clean it up, I could just, take a little bit off here or there, but I think that's pretty good. So you just take, you just cut some circles. The bigger your circle, the bigger your bead cap will wind up being. And the bead caps are going to look like this. This is the first one that I made. And this one is my glimmer glue and 1 coat of glimmer glue and 2 coats of clear nail polish. And then that just gives you a bead cap that you can fit your tassel right into there. And then instead of having just that plain top, you've got that bead cap on there. Obviously, they're not metal. They're not going to look like metal bead caps, but they're still very pretty, and they serve exactly the same purpose as a metal one. And the nice thing is that you can color them to match your project. So here is another one. This one was done with 2 coats of glimmer glue, which obviously are not quite dry yet. There it is. Get it off my hand before I really might need to repaint that now. It still looks pretty good. So, but this was 2 coats of the glimmer glue, and I actually just did that before I came back on. I should have known better than to touch it. But that's what they're going to look like when we're done. So then I need to get that paint off my hand. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to take our circles and we're just going to spray them with some water. And if you don't have any water, you can just pour water on your finger and just rub it on each side. You know, it really doesn't, you don't have to spray it on there. And then just put your wet circles onto your mat. And then on your one mat, because it's thinner and doesn't have as much give, you're going to go round and around your circle. Press it in the middle and then go around and around. And we're just breaking up those fibers. And because it's wet, it's kind of wanting to stick a little bit, and you don't necessarily need to go fast. I tend to do this a lot, but really slower is better. And then what we're going to do is that kind of broke up the fibers a bit and started it to curl up. So now I'm going to go to my next thickness, which actually at this point now I've got 3 thicknesses here because I'm putting this 2 on top of my 1. And again, go around the edges and press in the middle. And do the same with this one. That one just does not want to go. It's very wet in the middle, and so I'm really sticking to it, but that's okay. Just kind of go around the edges and then press in the middle really well. And one more time, we'll do it with the next mat also, because then we'll get those fibers kind of rolling up this way. Now, you know, your ball tools work really well to kind of curl things a little bit. They're not going to make that complete dome like that. And so what we're going to do is, after we get all those fibers broke, get a nice big dent in the middle, is we will just take our paper, now that we've got it like this, center it on our bead, and then just start forming it around that bead. And going around and around and around with our fingers. Just turn it around. There's a great big fold right here. I don't want that big fold, so I'm going to open that up a little bit and kind of move it over a little bit. So I'll have a littler fold over here and a littler fold over here so that I don't have that huge one. Now this is pretty dry now, so I'm just going to spray it with just a touch more water. Whoops, spray me with a touch more water. Okay. Oh, and I think I totally missed it because it doesn't feel wet at all. I'm spraying it off camera because I don't want to spray whoops, sorry about that. I don't want to spray everything that's on the table. So that's all you do. You just go around and around and around and get it till it's how you like the looks of it. And again, I've got a really big one here that I just don't want it that big. So I'm just kind of moving things around a little bit. Pinching around the edges so that I have a lot more smaller creases, and you're going to just adjust on it until you get it how you think it ought to look, because I'm doing it kind of fast. It's not necessarily wanting to cooperate, and I don't want to keep you here forever, but you get the gist of that. Then you're going to just take that and set it aside to dry. Actually, the drying ones are over there. And then we're going to take this one. Now this one I want to make smaller, so I am going to go to my next smaller ball tool, and I'm going to spray it and just put it on there and just start pinching it around. Just kind of pinch and push down. Okay, and if you do it with both hands at the same time, it helps keep it all like kind of in shape. And then make sure when you're rolling it that you're kind of rolling it the same way with your hands, so that as it folds over those creases, you're not like folding it one way with one hand and the other way with the other. So just go around like that. Then look at it from the side. Make sure that it looks like how you want it. Like it's a little short here, so I'm going to maybe pull it down a little bit there, because once you let this dry, this is going to be your shape. So that looks pretty good. Hold it down, let you see what it looks like from the top. So we're just going to take that off. Now we've got that, and we'll set it aside to dry. Once they're dry, all you have to do is just, this one's already got a hole poked in it, and I definitely don't want to poke on those mats. Where's my other mat? There we go. Take our pokey tool, the smallest one, our smallest little screwdriver, put it on something soft, find where you think your center is, and then just poke through and give it a little twist. Now if I want that hole bigger, which I think that I do, then I'm just going to go to my next size up, and you can just continue with the 3 sizes if you want to. I'm just going to go to the second one. So there we go. We've got that hole. Give it a twist. Come back in from the top and give it a twist the other way. That helps kind of fold down what got pushed out. So there we go. Now we've got that bead cap with a hole in it, and that's just as easy as it is. Just put it on there. Start with your smallest one. It always works the best. It's the sharpest and the smallest. And you don't want to like misform. I mean, that just poked right through there. But if you have to push really hard and it's really hard for it to poke through, it will bend your whatever you're trying to poke a hole in a little bit. So there we go. And there is that one. And then you're just going to put them, once you've got the holes in them, put them on the end of a skewer and paint them with whatever you'd like to. I am going to, actually I want this big one, and I am going to paint it purple, because when I did this, doesn't that look really cool? It's very pretty. Now I will put it back down like a tassel, but I was just letting it dry that way. But this big one should fit. Yeah, see, this big one fits really well. If I get it on there, it fits really well on there like that. So I'm going to paint this one purple with purple nail polish, because I want one to go on there. And then I also have a little dry one. Oh, it's the blue one that I showed you. That's to go on the one that we made earlier, because it has a very small top. See, this one right here, it got loose on me and I just couldn't get it to tighten up, and I really didn't want to mess with it too much, so I just left it loose and figured I'll make a bigger bead cap. So, you know, everything is always fixable. Now I just go ahead and put my bead caps on a skewer so that I don't have to try and hold on to them. And I start at the top and just work my way down. I don't do the inside. I suppose you could if you wanted, but if you did the inside and you were holding it like this and painting it, be careful not to push it off of your skewer. But I figured it's not going to be seen, so I don't really want to waste my nail polish on it. If it was going to be seen, then I probably would do something with the inside. And this nail polish is probably going to be shiny enough that I won't want to put any clear nail polish on top. But I probably will want to do a second coat, because it is going to, more than likely, it's going to get a little dull as it dries and soaks into the paper. But once you get this on the paper with that first coat, the next coat will be much shinier, like when you're putting it on your nails, because now you'll have a hard surface, this hard coat that the nail polish won't soak into. I haven't done one with nail polish yet, so we'll see, but I'm pretty sure. And then do go around the bottom, because your bottoms might be seen. So just kind of twist it around. I hope you could see that, because I'm not so sure I was in frame. If not, I'll come back and do another one. But that's as easy as it is. There we go. And we're going to let that dry, and I'll be back and we'll put some together. Thank you very much. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back to put these together now, and I was off screen when I painted these, but I decided not to come on and paint another one because you get the gist of it, and you did see some of it. So, but what I'm going to do is I put some bling around the corner of here, leaving a little room for my bead cap, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one, and I just cut some mesh. And you can do it, this I did 3, but you can do less than that. It all depends too on how high your stem or whatever you would call that is. So, and then I'm going to put that on there, leaving a little space for my bead cap. I have some of the little beads that I made here, and I have some of the rolled beads. And to put this on, I'm just going to go ahead and put a dot on each one of the little circles, or just a little bit of glue. And then because my dots don't touch each other as they go around, I did leave a little bit of the fiber sticking out that end. Turn it around. I have some fibers here, so I'm also going to just kind of squeeze out a little bit of a dot and kind of wipe it on those fibers so that they stick, so that it actually goes. Don't want to get my glue down by that furry stuff or it'll stick. And then I'm just going to put this on here. I'm going to make it so that the end wraps around back by, this is where my start stop point is. Right here is where my paper stopped. So that's where I'm going to put this, because that would be the back. Make sure that I pull it down a little bit so that I have a little bit of a rim there for my bead cap to be glued to. That's the other nice thing about these bead caps, is you can glue them right on because they're paper and this is paper, so the glue will hold them really well. And you don't have to have any kind of special glue. Alrighty, so I'm just going to push that on there and set that aside for just a second. It'll probably come a little bit loose and I'll have to press it back down again. So then we've got this one right here that we've already got our bling on, so now we need to put our parts on there. I've got our folded wire here that I learned from Nina Rabina, and I'm going to say that I'm going to probably put about that much on there. I can always cut it off later if I feel it's too long, but if it's too short, I'd have to start over. Now, the bead cap is going to be on the top and not until after we go through. So first I want to put my beads on. So I've just got a couple of these little beads that I did the other day, and I think that was supplement 13. And so I'm just going to put that on there. And they're nice and tight. And I wanted that because then I don't need to glue or anything. I'm going to leave this little bit of fuzzy here at the bottom. And then I've got that bead on there just like that. And then, trying to think, this bead really doesn't match. The purple doesn't match. So I'm just going to do 3 of these little beads. So just put that through there. Make my string straight. And just decide how close I want it. Probably right about there. That's about a 1/2 inch apart. Looks kind of cute. Put a third one on because everything looks better in odd numbers. Well, can't get my bead in there. There we go. Pull that one down. And I do have 2 thicknesses of this thread, 2 thicknesses and all the fuzzies, so it's very tight to get it on there, but once you get it on there, you know it's not going to go anywhere. A little bit closer. I do kind of want them in their original spot where, you know, like the spot that I want them. I don't want to adjust them later, so I'm going to leave that just like that. There we go. And then I'm going to kind of trim this bottom straight across. Get a few of these long flyaways out of there. That's how that looks. I really like that. And then I'm going to go up through my bead. Now, if you lose your hole, just use your skewer and kind of find out where it is. You can go in from the top. That's the easiest way to find your hole. And then go to the bottom and open things up so that you can find it. And I'm just going to put this right up through the hole. And these I'm going to be folding back down. So I do want all three of my beads to kind of stick out. I'm going to do it like that, so this top bead is just right at the bottom of my fringes. And that leaves me with this much on top to hang it from. And I'm just going to take my bead cap, and I did put a second coat of the purple on here. Pull that through there, and that's why I made my hole a little bigger, because I knew I was going to put this string on here. Okay, and I like the way that looks, except that I pulled my beads all the way up into there. So when I pull this back down, it's going to make it very fuzzy on top. So I am going to pull my bead cap back, up, back onto the needle. If I can, get that needle back through that hole. Well, it doesn't want to do that, so, but I have pulled it up. I'll pull this down, and I'm going to hold this bottom one right here where I want it. Just hold on to that. And then pull my bead cap on, and that looks good. So now what I'm going to do, I want these hairs that are sticking out from under my bead cap, I don't want. You might like it like that, and you can leave them sticking out and arrange them maybe so they stick all the way around or whatever, but I don't want them sticking out from under mine. So I'm just going to kind of trim that back, take some of my glue, and go right around the top of the tassel. There. All the way around. Pull my bead right to there. And I'm just going to take this and just fit it right on there. And there we go. Now we're going to need to let that dry. And this is what it looks like so far. Like that. And I think that that looks good. Now we'll let this dry, and then I will trim up any of these hairs if I want to. And once it's all dry here, if it still seems to be moving a little bit, I'll put a little bit of glue in here so that my string doesn't move, so that my little beads stay sticking out the bottom. And then, because we put the needle through the bead cap last, we've got our hoop at the top to hang it from. So I'm just going to set this aside and let it dry. And we'll check this one. And this one is good. So I am going to do the same thing with that, except I think I'm going to use this little bead in the middle. We'll see how that looks, and I'll put that together, and then I'll be right back to show you what they look like, both of them finished, and also what we're going to need for next week. Okay, so here is our finished project for this week, and we have our embossing mats that we made that we'll be able to use to emboss flowers, leaves, all sorts of things. They came in very handy to make the domes in our homemade bead caps, and these are 3 other little bead caps that I had made that I didn't use, and I really love this one. This one I put on clear glitter nail polish. And it's one that I have in my box, and I thought that turned out really pretty. Put this one back up here, and here are our beads. This one I left all frizzy on top, and there's our purple bead cap on that one, and our little mini beads at the bottom. I thought that turned out pretty. And then also we've got this one with the turquoise bead cap on the top, and I thought that turned out real cute too. So we have both of those, and I had fun making them. I hope you had fun watching, and I hope that you have fun making some of your own. For next week, I had said that we would be able to get a heat gun because I had looked at Walmart and they had them for $17.50, but they were on sale. They're no longer on sale when I looked at them this week, so we will have to wait one more week. We currently have 13 in the bank. After buying this week's project, we will use $1, and so we will have 17 in the bank. So the next week, after next week, when we have our next $5, we'll have 22, and we will be able to buy the Zap heat gun from Walmart because it's $20.21, and by that time we'll have $22. So we'll have to wait one more week for that. But for this week, we are going to need these alphabet blocks from the Dollar Tree. I saw Gina Ahrens make some prompt blocks, and I thought they looked like a lot of fun. So I thought we would make that for our stash. And we've got plenty of stash now to go ahead and make these blocks. So what we will do is there's 9 blocks with 6 sides each, so that'll be 54 prompts. We'll pick through all the different things that we have in our box and use those as prompts. And it works great if you want to make something but you're just not sure exactly what you want to do. You roll your prompt blocks, and you just do whatever they tell you to do. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. So we'll need these alphabet blocks from the Dollar Tree. So I hope you enjoyed watching the video today. I had fun doing it, and I hope that you're all enjoying the series. So thank you very much for all of your support. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.